Hello friends, today we are going to discuss a very important topic from the audit and auditor's point of view, that is audit working papers. I want you guys to understand the topic with the help of an example. So here I have Goodwill and Company. Goodwill and Company is a very reputed company of its industries. I've been making good profits for the number of years. For the financial year 11 and 12, they had appointed Mr. Smart to be their auditors. Now Mr. Smart's policy of going about an audit was he did not make any working papers, or he did not have any working papers towards the end. So he issued the audit report on the basis of his analysis, which was done mentally and no records was maintained. So he issued a qualified report. So qualification of the report was later on questioned by the public to Mr. Smart, for which he had no answers. So in order to avoid such situation, what was the best solution that he would have done is to maintain an adequate working papers and adequate audit working papers. So working papers for a layman's term would be a linkage between the client's records and the auditor's report. If I put it in a formal words, SA 230 audit documentation says audit working papers are the records that shows that the audit procedures were performed, audit evidences were collected, and basis on which the auditor's opinion was formulated. So the basic purpose, the fundamental purpose of audit working papers would be to serve as an evidence for two things. Evidence on the basis of which the auditor's audit conclusion was drawn, and evidence that the audit was performed properly, it was done in accordance with standards of auditing, and other regulatory requirements were adhered to. Along with serving as a good audit evidence for the basis of formulation of opinion and that the audit was done in accordance with SA, it serves other purpose. So for example, it would assist the engagement team to be accountable for their work. It would assist the supervisory members of the engagement team to supervise the audit work. It will help them to plan the future audits. And the quality review that is done by the Institutes of Chartered Accountants of the firms that carry out audit and assurance engagement would be done on the basis of the audit working papers maintained by such firms. SQC1, that is Standards on Quality Control 1, states that the quality control for the firm carrying out audits, historical review of the financial statements, assurance services and related services, that the audit working papers are the property of the auditor. It is very important to understand the ownership and the retention of the audit working papers. Both the ownership and the retention of the audit working papers belongs to the auditor. When I say ownership, of course audit working papers could be, firstly it could be extracts of the records that the auditors obtained from the client. Those are his audit evidences. Audit working papers would also include the planning, the data collection, or the future formulation of the records. Audit evidences would consist of two types of documents. Firstly, it would contain audit evidences. Those are the documents, records, and the substance that is collected from the client. Secondly, would consist his own planning and performance and his procedures and conclusions. These audit working papers have to be retained by the auditor till the time from the issuance of auditor's report to the period of 7 years as formulated by the institute. Also, that auditor at his own discretion can make available parts of these audit working papers to the client or other regulatory authorities. However, is under no compulsion to part with these audit working papers. I will give you a better example in this. So we have a big company wherein they are operating in branches in 10 other cities. So we have the main auditor and we also have branch auditors. So according to SQI, Standards on Quality Control 1, the main auditor has no authority over the working papers of the branch auditors. Of course, the main auditor considers the report of the branch auditors in his report. Of course, the main auditor will consider the branch auditor's audit report, and any reservation on any doubts on those audit report, he is open to ask the branch auditors. He can also visit the branch and draw his own conclusion about the working. However, in no ways he can demand rights over the working papers of the branch auditors. Audit working papers are maintained in two forms. Firstly, auditors have started maintaining a permanent audit file and a temporary audit file. So what's a permanent audit file of the working paper? Permanent audit file generally contains matters of significant importance to the client. So when we talk of significant importance, it means that the matters which will help the auditors to know about the company over the years. So it will have its MOA, Memorandum of Associations, Articles of Associations. It would have the statutory laws, regulations that is applicable to the company. It would have the communication with the ex-auditors. It would also have the major communication done with the management. And when it comes to, this was the permanent working file. When we come down to the temporary working file, we would have matters relating to the immediate previous financial years. The financial year that is auditor is liable to report upon. So for example, we'll have third party confirmation, we'll have representations from the management, we'll have his audit conclusions, analytical procedures carried on by the auditors will be maintained in the temporary audit file. So the conclusion of our study was that the audit working papers are very crucial and should be maintained by the auditors for a period of minimum 7 years from the audit report, and they serve as an evidence based on which the conclusion about the audit was drawn. Thank you.